Today we're going to talk about not allowing your past or your present to rob you of your peace. We're going to do that in three different ways. We're going to talk about the importance of not reliving your past. It's all right to acknowledge your past. It's all right to review the past, but we don't want to live in the past. When we live in the past, it brings us down. I have so many friends that have gone through different things with deaths of family members and friends like myself. Many years ago, I remember this experience of, I think it was 9th grade, my best friend, he died from swimming. He was my best friend. He was one of the great swimmers around. He was swimming across Mississippi River. He got a cramp. And he died, and I remember crying. Maybe you've had relatives or somebody die as an example. And I found that when I focused on that experience, it brought me down mentally. It didn't help me. It brought me down. But when I thought about it later on, I realized that nobody that you love or that you care for wants you to be sitting at home depressed and down and feeling hopeless. If they were here right now, they would say, Bruce, Bill, Bob, whatever your name is, they would say, get up, enjoy your day. But we find ourselves feeling down and out because of those things. Some people that know me well probably understand this. When I was probably 8 or 9, I got abused. Now, being physically abused by somebody, you start feeling like, is it your fault? You start feeling guilty and those kind of things. And if you live in there, it physically brings you down, and you'll walk around, you got your head hanging down low, and you're sitting home a lot, maybe you're eating a lot. Whatever it is, there's these different triggers that come off, and I'm going to talk about that as well. Because there's 3 things that I'm really going to highlight on, and that's, again, not living in your past, number 1. Number 2 is going to be recognizing your triggers. And number 3, taking a proactive approach, or what I call proactive aggression. I'm hoping that my talk today will be a huge catalyst for you to get you out of that low feeling or that down feeling, and maybe you have a little anxiety. Let me start over again. If I was to ask you to take 5 minutes right now and think of all the bad and the sad things that you've gone through in your life, for 5 minutes, if I said close your eyes and think about the horrible experiences. I know what I went through. I know the abuse that I went through. And even me talking about it right now, if you know me really well, you know this is genuine coming out of me. Even talking about it, it does something to my spirit that I don't like. Because I'm actually kind of feeling it right. I'm kind of reliving it, and I'm doing what I'm saying that you don't want to do. You don't want to relive it. But if you thought about that for 5 minutes, and then I was to go over here and hit this button, do you think you would have been as excited about that song? No. Because what happens is when you allow yourself to get in a state of depression or hopelessness, it brings your spirit down, and that's a major barrier to your peace. It's pretty hard to have peace when you're wallowing in that depression. Poor me, poor Ron Henderson. Guess what? Everybody in this world has been through some form of abuse. And especially men, if it's by another man or somebody, don't want to talk about it. All right? Everybody's been through something. There's nobody here in this room that's been through something that nobody else has gone through in the world. The world is big, the world is large. So we don't want to live in that area. It's all right to review it, it's all right to acknowledge it, but we have to learn from it. We have to learn from it. Number 2 is recognizing those negative triggers. What are triggers? Those are those subtle things or straightforward things that hit you every single day of your life. And how you respond to those triggers will either make you or break you. What triggers Ron Henderson may not trigger Kevin, may not trigger Mark, may not trigger Meg, may not trigger Lily or Les. Everybody has a different trigger. When I was young, if somebody called me out on my name, let's go. All right? Ha! Okay? You're ready to fight. That was a trigger for me. If somebody was to stare at me, that was a trigger. What are you looking at? Who are you? Why are you looking at me like that? I mean, I was very defensive. It was a trigger, and those triggers actually caused me to go into a store and kind of trash the store and have somebody file charges against me, because that's how I handled that type of a thing. So you got a piece of paper in front of you. Make a list of 3 things that, when you think about it, at least 3 that have pulled you down mentally or physically, or have you feeling down or depressed or hopeless. This is a private list for you only. Writing it down actually helps to impregnate this more into your brain, okay? So write it down now if you could. You got a sheet of paper in front of you. Take your time, think about it. What have you gone through that's brought you down, and what are the triggers? What triggers you? What gets you upset? I meet people every day and they say, how do you feel? I say, I feel great. I actually do feel great. I'm sorry. Oh, you can't feel great every day. I do. I'm sorry. It's the way it works. Sorry. I do. But if I want to stop and wallow in my best friend dying, I can start crying and I can stay in that state of depression, which my friend would not want. Nobody wants you to feel that way. When I pass away, I don't want anybody crying for me. You know that song? Don't cry for me, Argentina. Da, 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 da. I don't want anybody crying for me. I want people saying, you know, he had a good life. Hopefully, I've impacted them. I've been a catalyst to action to get them to actually do something with their life, instead of just sitting there listening and not feeding into this. Did you write it all down? If you wrote it down, raise your hand. Raise your hand. Right? You get anything out of this? Raise your hand if you are. If you're not, don't worry about it. I'll slap you later. No, I'm teasing. I'm teasing, okay? All right, so you got those triggers, and by the way, some triggers can be positive, but today I'm really talking about those, what I call the negative triggers, not the positive triggers, the negative triggers. Now, number 3 is practicing proactive aggression. What is that? To be proactive is just to initiate, to start, take the initiative in all that you do. So you know what your triggers are. So now when somebody calls me out of my name, or somebody stares at me, I think, oh, they must know me. Or somebody says something I don't like, guess what I do? I ignore them. I do not let it bother me. And I already know what I'm going to do because I'm practicing what I call proactive aggression. You're at work and you have people that are treating you a certain way. They've been doing this for years. You know they're behaving that way. So why do you leave work down and depressed? Use your triggers. Practice proactive aggression. Do not let anything steal your peace. You got it? Can everybody stand up with me? Got 3 seconds we need. 3 seconds. Grab your sheet of papers in your hand. Then I'll be ending. I want you to repeat after me. When I tell you to, you're going to place your name in this area. Now that I know my triggers, say your name. Ron Henderson will take control of how I respond to my triggers. Say that.
Take control of how I respond to my triggers.
Instead of allowing my triggers to control me, as I continue to work at controlling how I respond, say it.
As I continue to work on controlling how I respond,
I will increase my peace.
I will increase my peace.
And decrease my stress.
And decrease my stress.
And anxiety.
And anxiety.
And then you'll be able to walk away saying, I'm happy when I'm happy.